Now, our first guest tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is a man with an extraordinary career by any standards, a veteran of the War of Independence and the Civil War, who still has an active and major input into both Irish and international politics. At the age of 12, he was informed of his father's execution. At 14, he witnessed his mother's arrest. At 15, he joined the IRA. At 17, he went to London with Michael Collins for the treaty negotiations. He was Chief of Staff of the IRA. He was twice Secretary to Eamon de Valera. He was founder of Clonopoblicta, Minister for External Affairs, Ireland's most distinguished lawyer, founder of Amnesty International, United Nations Commissioner from Namibia, only person to win both the Nobel and Lenin Peace Prizes. He also was awarded the American Medal for Justice, and also was given a whole host of international awards, distinctions, and honours. He is still deeply involved in international work for human rights and nuclear disarmament, and we'd like you to welcome Mr. Seán MacBride. And celebrating his 80th birthday on next Thursday, of which more anon. It's so hard to know where to start with you. So taking the bull by the horns into the deep end, we'll start earlier on, please. Let me talk to you about your mother, first of all, and your father. Your mother is always depicted as a great activist and the woman whom W.B. Yeats loved and wrote much romantic poetry for and to. I'd like to know, what are your memories of her as a mother?
Well, it's very hard. I mean, she was a marvellous mother. Tremendous admiration for her. I would say I learned most of my Irish history from her, and probably learned most of the rules of life from her.
Did you understand at the time the effect that she had on people, her charisma?
Probably not. I mean, I regarded her as my mother, you know, and which is rather a different thing to regarding a person as a public figure.
But did it manifest itself in any way in your memory, this influence that she had on people?
Yes, I knew she was an important person. I knew that she had lots of influence in the world, in different parts of the world. I knew, if you hear from my childhood memories here in Ireland, of how she was highly respected by people, particularly in the West and Donegal, resulting from the evictions and all that period, you know. So I was conscious of all that.
And did you ever see her with those people and their reaction?
Oh yes, yes.
And what was their reaction to her?
Oh, that was rather frightening. I mean, people, I remember being rather horrified by the fact that in Donegal or in Mayo, Galway, people used to kiss her skirt.
The hem of her garment. Yes. Now, when you say you learn most of your Irish history from her, did she talk to you a great deal about Irish history, or read it to you, or what?
Yes. Well, a mixture. She used to talk a lot about it, but apart from that, I had regular. She used to try and set aside half an hour a day for some portion of Irish history.
Must have been boring at some stage.
Very boring. Very boring.
Yes, enough is enough, says you. Now, what about your father? What were the circumstances of your hearing about your father's execution?
I was at school in Paris at the time, and I learned to school, to the Jesuit school, and I must say I was very impressed by the way in which they handled it, in retrospect now, because at that time the war was on, the Germans were not very far from Paris. You could hear the guns firing the whole time. And once a week, there was a ceremony at which the rector of the school would get out the whole school together and announce the fathers, the brothers who had been killed in the war. And so on that day, he announced my father had been executed, and that it was for the same cause, for human liberty, for freedom of small nations, and that therefore it was on the same path as the fathers of the boys who had been executed by, or killed in the war by the Germans.
And did the man just come in and announce it to you rather baldly, or what?
No, you know, he told me beforehand, and Mother had come to the school as well.
Yes, and did you know your father very well?
Not very well, no, because Mother and Father were separated, I knew him, I saw him from time to time. Occasionally in Ireland I would see him, or I would get letters from him or postcards and so on. So I didn't know him well.
Yes. Was he a big burly man, or was he a small man? Or?
No, he was a tall man, tall, no, not burly, no.
But you had no real contact, not anything like with your
Not
mother?
anything like the contacts I had with
No.
mother.
And what effect did his death have on you?
Well, very hard to analyse that. I suppose it was part of a struggle for the liberation of Ireland that I knew all about, you know, because we the whole, if you like, the whole family life was always centred around liberation from Ireland. And my parents were, from time to time, couldn't live in Ireland, or there were many different exiles from different parts of the world as well, many Indian leaders, some leaders from Egypt and so on, you know, so that the whole atmosphere at home was centred on the liberation movements, if you like, at that period.
Yes. And when it came to your time to join the IRA, did you take up arms because of them or because of an ideological conviction of your own?
I think because of an ideological conviction of my own. I joined Fianna first, and that was a Boy Scout, and it was quite amusing, but then I soon got tired of that, and unbeknownst to my mother, I transferred over to the IRA.
And how long after that did she find out?
Oh, it must have been about a year or so afterwards, I think, yes.
And what was her reaction to that?
Well, it was done. It was too late to have any reaction about it. She was worried lest I'd get killed or jailed and so on, you know.
Yes, you very nearly